Hello everyone and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. This is Colin, your host. Hope you're excited. We're going to do a playthrough of Pandemic Rising Tide, a 3-player playthrough. Timothy and Monica are going to help me out with this one. I just got it. It looks great. We've played it a couple times and we're ready to rock it. Just like normal, this is going to be a setup video. If you'd like to jump right to the playthrough, feel free to check out the videos after this one in the playlist. Otherwise, hang out here and I'll show you how to set it up. This game is quite different from the regular Pandemic series, so I do recommend checking this out if you're not used to how Rising Tide works. The first step is to set up the board itself. So what we have here are lots of different components, some new things to Pandemic overall. So you're used to this. This is kind of like your infection track. Instead, it's your flood level. You'll start at 2, and then it'll go up to 3, and then 4. But here on the board, we have dikes. These dikes, you're going to have a total of 50 of them, and you're going to place them in locations that there are red dots. Not blue dots, red dots. You'll place all of them out on the board, and you'll use all 50 of them initially. I'm zooming up here just so you guys can see. Some of them even have 2 dikes there to help protect you a little bit more. You'll also want to pull out your 4 hydraulic structures. And that's the whole point of this game, is we're trying to build these 4 structures in a specific location. If we do, we win the game. Similar to regular Pandemic, if our player cards ever run out, or we run out of flood cubes, we lose the game. The one difference is there is no outbreak tracker on this one. Instead of outbreaks, the water flows and you're just going to see a lot more cubes get on the board much more quickly. You'll also want to set up some of these water cubes already on the board. And what's great is the board itself will show you those locations. So you can see they've got these little blue icons here, and it even tells you how many, 2 or just 1. Really nice. There are 2 seas here, the Nord Sea and the Zuider Sea. What we're trying to do is prevent all of that from pushing inland into the Netherlands here, and we're doing that by putting up dikes and then trying to eliminate the water that's on the inland themselves. There are a couple locations that are considered high ground, and you can never get flood cubes on those locations. So we've got 2 right here. So any of the locations that are these colors are considered high elevation. All others are not considered high elevation and are subject to water flows. So potentially the water could flow into these other lands if this dike was not here. Next, we need to degrade the regions. So just like regular Pandemic, we're going to draw 9 cards from the flood deck here, or they call this the dikes fail deck. And the first 3, we're going to have 3 dike fails. The second 3, we're going to have 2 dike fails, and the last 3, we're going to have 1 dike fail. So these first 3, we're going to have the dikes fail 3 times. So we've got a red location, Zeus Vlaanderen. We have a green location, Hoskvaard, and we have a purple location, Friesland. Having the dikes fail 3 times, what happens is we remove dikes up to however many we have there, and then if there's not enough dikes to remove, we start placing water cubes. But I had 3 dikes here that were adjacent to this region, so we removed those 3. That's all we have to do here. For Hoaxie here, we're going to lose this dike, and this dike. Now, we could have had another one, and we could have just discarded this dike instead of having to place water here. So that was a really protected region. Our final region, the Friesland, we'll have to remove all 3 of these. But you know what's nice? We didn't have to place any more water cubes. I'm okay with that. Our next 3 cards, we're going to have the dikes fail 2 times. So Land van Eltna and Geldis Valley and Flevoland. We'll remove these 2 from Land van Eltna. We'll remove 1 from Gelders Valley, but then we're going to have to place 1 water cube because there are no more dikes to take off here. And for Flevoland, we'll take off both of these dikes. These final 3 will just lose 1 dike. So we've got Geldis Valley again. Oh, that's terrible. We have Schoenvendoland, and we have Wergemer. Gelders Valley is hit a second time, and now you can already see there are more than 1 copy of each of the places in that Dikes Fail deck. There's 2 of each place. So that means you can potentially get hit twice like this. Over here, we'll take off this dike for Schönendolven. And our final dike removal is this one for Varenberger. Your next step is you're going to want to pick out your specific role. So you're supposed to shuffle them up and randomly pick ones, but since we're somewhat new to this game, we decided to just pick our characters. Thought that would be fun. So we're going to do the warehouse manager, the carpenter, and the portmaster. Timothy is going to be the portmaster. So his ability is, as an action, he can build a port in your region. A port looks like this, and normally you have to discard a card that matches the region that you're in to be able to create a port. And he can also, as an action, if you are in a region with a port, move to any region. So he can jump around and create ports all over. It's awesome. And the nice thing about ports is, for an action, you can move your pawn from any region to a port region. So the portmaster can really help with mobility on the board. Monica's going to be the warehouse manager. As an action, if you're in a region with a port, give any region card to any player. So she gets that researcher ability from the regular Pandemic with a nice little twist. She gets to give it to any player in any region card. So nice. And we felt like this paired really well with the portmaster because I'm sure we're going to have tons of ports. The final and the best one, if I do say so myself, because I'm going to be playing it, is the carpenter. So the carpenter, as an action, build a pumping station in your region. No card required. So just like the ports, you'd have to discard a card that matches your region that you're in to be able to build one of these pumps. I'll show you how the pumps work in the playthrough. Just know that every round they're going to start pumping water out of their regions or adjacent regions if there's water there. So really nice. And I can put those there just as a simple action instead of actually having to discard cards. The other thing you can do is that I can do is you may do the build dike action in regions containing one or more water cubes. Normally, if there's water cubes in a region, you cannot build a dike. You have to eliminate the water first. I don't have to. Our next step is setting up our player deck. So we have our player deck of all the different locations, and there's 2 of each location, just like inside of the dike fail deck. And then we have our events. We're going to put 5 of these events inside of here, shuffle them up, and draw or deal out 3 cards to each player. So what I'll do is I'll randomly grab, and I'm supposed to do it face down, 5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll shuffle those 5 into this deck and deal out 3 to each of our players. So here's our hands for our 3 characters. I will have these 3, Monica will have these 3, and Timothy will have these 3. We're going to determine first player by looking at which character has the least amount or the lowest level of defense line for the cards in their hand. After looking at them, it looks like Timothy will be our first player. He has one with only 56 kilometers of length, and that's the shortest of all of the cards in all of our hands. Now we're going to set up the rest of the player deck. Just like Pandemic, we're going to split it up as evenly as possible into 6 piles instead of 5. So the easiest version is 6 storm cards, which is just like your epidemics. So that's what we're going to play today. So then we place 1 in each pile. And then what I will do off camera is shuffle each one of these individually and create our player deck. The final step is doing the initial water flow. So how this works is we look at any location that has more than 1 water cube, and we look at all the adjacent regions that do not have dikes blocking them, and we have to place water cubes in those adjacent regions. Now, if this location, like this one, has 2, that means adjacent regions should have a minimum of 1 cube in it. So you can see here, Flevland already has 2, so we don't have to place any more cubes here, but we should place 1 cube here in Betoy. Same thing is going to happen over here, comparing Markvard and going into Delphan. There's an opening here, so we place 1 cube here. We have 2 more water flows, 1 from Flevland here to just Delta, and then 1 from this region over here to Friesland. Now, let's just say this one had 3 cubes. Well, that means that all adjacent regions will get 2 cubes, and if they had 2 cubes, there'd be no problem. But if it had less than 2, you'd have to put 2 in those regions. Fortunately, we didn't have any places that had 3 cubes, so we're set there. This one is really easy to miss, But do you see how this is connected to the sea here? The sea technically has 2 water cubes. So that means we have to place one here in Zeus Vlaanderen as well. And that's the setup for Pandemic Rising Tide. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you're excited for the playthrough.